Hey, how's it going? It's part 2 of the wiring harness repair. As stated in the previous video, I bought a 97 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited, and the previous owner apparently had a problem with a wiring harness. It melted, and in the process they lost a couple of wires out of it. I have since found a donor in my other Jeep. I cut these two plugs out and a big piece of the wiring harness to replace what you see here. And I've already got started. I put one wire on just to see how it was going to go. I'm running on an extension cord, but it worked good. The heat shrink worked good, so I figured I'd show you guys a little madness. Something I always enjoyed doing. Not sarcastically, I actually do enjoy electrical work, but I don't like having to do it on a vehicle. They're always such a pain in the ass. Let's see. Since I'm just splicing wires, I'm doing double heat shrink, one small, one large. Of course, I don't think that's going to fit, so if it don't, we'll just leave it. When I'm soldering wires together like this, I like to cut back just a small amount of insulation. I'm using an old Radio Shack soldering iron with a homemade copper wire tip. I just use a piece of regular 12-2 Romex. I take the actual conductor, not the ground wire, because the conductor is thicker, and I use that, hammer out a flat spot in it, as you can see, and just bend it roughly to the shape I need and go to town with it, and it works. And where I finish sheetrock for a living, I find copper wire pieces all the time, so they're, I guess you could say, technically free. And yeah, I know you're not supposed to carry solder on the soldering iron like that, but I've already tinned both wires, and I'm using really expensive, high quality Kester solder, so I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. And this is making a fool out of me, so I'll go and hold it. That's incredibly hot. And yeah, that heat shrink tubing's not going to fit, but we'll force it up there anyway. Let's see, I'll show you guys a little trick. I wish you could expand this stuff by putting it in the freezer, but I found you can take something like this, or if you've not already attached, a pair of needle nose pliers, and I ripped it a little bit, but that's alright. You can take a pair of needle nose or anything similar and expand the heat shrink tubing. And it's just a little something extra. You know, I didn't take into account the fact that this wire was so much bigger than the rest, but no big deal. That's why I use two pieces. And there's two wires out of, I think, 12 spliced. And for the next one, we'll be looking for a green stripe on a, looks like a brown wire, and that'll be in one of these two. I'll haul this junk over the side. The bad thing about all this is the fact that the majority of the factory harness is melted. But I found my wire. And there's a few others, since this is a relatively unharmed section. I'll go a little long here to make it work right. Little splice or a little strip, a little short strip, a small piece of the smaller diameter heat shrink, and then a longer piece of the larger diameter heat shrink. Put it on first, slide it well far past the end of the wire, that way it doesn't get hot and shrink. Now I use my one-handed soldering technique that I learned watching BigClive.com. If you're into this kind of stuff, I highly recommend his channel, and Dave Jones of the EEV blog, because they're both pretty damn cool. And they're way better at explaining and doing stuff than I am. I'm just a dork in the backyard doing stuff for fun and because I'm cheap. Yes, I do believe in the right to repair. Case in point. Let's see here. Except for the little problems this thing's got, it's a pretty damn good vehicle. I've owned 2 other Jeep Cherokees, well, 2 Jeep Grand Cherokee, a Laredo, and 2 Limiteds. And for some reason I didn't video me fixing the liftgate sensor. Oh wow, this wire is just totally making an ass of me. Alright, got them tight. Little tug test to make sure they're not going anywhere. Wipe off any excess boogers. Slide the correctly sized heat shrink tube up over the splice. Apply way too much heat, burn it, but it still shrinks. Then slide the other piece over, shrink him, and that's it. Now, to save you guys from a lot of boredom with me running my big trap, I'm gonna pause and come back in a minute. We'll be done with this atrocity, and then we'll move on to the next video. Haha, I had a little technical difficulty there. Oh, yeah. Shit's going all to hell. Well, guys, I decided, since I don't upload very often and my videos are shorter than cat pissing, I'll invite you guys to watch. I figure if you clicked on the video, then you're gonna be interested in what I'm doing. And for anyone curious, this was no one's direct fault, at least I don't believe so. From what I've seen, the HVAC system, the factory heater fan controller, was malfunctioning, and the previous owner didn't know it, didn't know what it could cause if left be. And this is the resulting damage. At least that's what I believe it to be. It could be the fact that it has some kind of tow package attached to the front of it and had been pulled behind an RV or another vehicle at some time, and maybe someone tried to bodge a wiring harness in, an adapter of sorts, to hook up lights so they could tow the vehicle without adding extra lights. Or maybe one of the previous owners installed some lights improperly, because there seems to be a problem with the factory driving lights. The indicator on the dash stays illuminated, key off or on, whether or not the switch is depressed or not. And like I said, I've owned 2 of these, and I know that's not normal. But what I believe is there's something backfeeding into the switch, and by replacing this rat's nest, I hope to remedy that problem. Because right now, as it stands, that light is not currently on with a battery in the vehicle and this unplugged, but neither are a lot of things. This is actually a very large part of the wiring harness. I'd had this unplugged as well, for very large conductors coming straight from the fuse panel. One's fed from a fuse directly. The other one's fed from a relay from a fuse. And I think the other 2 are direct power. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, I got a pretty good deal in this thing. It's got what some people would consider to be a lot of miles on it. I don't really. 250 some thousand odd miles, but I suspect that even with the key off, well, with the key in the accessory position, if you move the vehicle, it's going to count miles. And as previously stated, there are tow hookups on the front of the vehicle, so I believe a few of the miles that are on it were actually from towing, not from driving, because this thing just runs too exceptionally well. And another problem I found when I brought it home, I pulled in the driveway and walked by the fender and thought, oh wow, that's quite a massive vacuum leak. And you'll have to forgive me, sometimes I forget that I have a means to record and share these things. But I done some digging, and 3 of the 6 fuel injector O-rings on the fuel rail under you guys there were damaged and leaking very bad. Actually, I could hear it. And luckily, there again, I have another Jeep that broke a piston, so it's currently out of commission and donating parts to the cause, as it were. Wow, that's hot. Since the motor blew up, I had already pulled the intake and the head off of it, and I thought, well, chasing a miss, I'd already replaced fuel injectors, O-rings, and some other nonsense on that other engine. And sure enough, I pulled the fuel rail out of the closet, and it had a brand new set of injector O-ring seals in it, and some pretty decent injectors in case anything happens to these. I doubt it, but whatever. I have good luck like that. Alright, almost done. It looks like we're down to 4 wires. Wow, guys, that went really quick. Anyone curious as to know what this does, these 2 plugs right here, from what I can tell, have something to do with feeding the ECU voltage and headlights and the like. As far as I can tell, I didn't go really deep. I know for a fact that there were no lights in the front, and once I replaced all the light bulbs, park lights, the blinkers, and the other blinker lights and the corner markers, that's when I realized that none of them still work. And I wasn't getting voltage anywhere. I checked with the multimeter and it was all dead, so I've done a little investigation, a little digging, and found the culprit. Okay, there's a mystery. Where's my red wire? Well, kind of glad I brought you guys in on this. It's pretty interesting. I don't see the red wire anywhere. Okay, guys, what'd you do with the red wire? Well, I'm serious, where'd it go? No, I don't want to mess with that one. That one goes straight down to the ECU. It's a mystery, guys. I'm not sure. Well, we might have to leave that one, boys and girls, because I'm not seeing a floating red wire anywhere. Everybody I see is connected, so we'll come back to that. I don't know, guys. It's odd. I don't know. That's gonna kill my OCD, man. These 3 wires right here will be lay-ins. Okay, guys, it looks like it's just 4 or 5 more connections, and I figure this video is probably 15 minutes long, so there'll be a part 2. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.